Sarah Martinez sat in the corner of the company break room, her fingers dancing across her phone screen with lightning speed. The soft clicking sounds of her mobile game filled the quiet space as other employees chatted about weekend plans and office gossip. At 28, she had worked at Dataflow Solutions for 3 years as a junior systems analyst. And in all that time, she had never quite fit in with her colleagues. "Look at Sarah again," whispered Jennifer from accounting. Nudging her friend Lisa, "All she ever does is play those stupid games. Doesn't she have anything better to do with her life?" Sarah pretended not to hear, but her jaw tightened slightly. She had grown used to the comments, the eye rolls, and the way conversations seemed to stop when she entered a room. Her coworkers saw her as the antisocial gamer girl who lived in a fantasy world, someone who couldn't handle real adult responsibilities. "I heard she plays games until like 3 a.m. every night," Lisa replied, shaking her head in disapproval. "No wonder she looks so tired all the time. She needs to grow up and get a life." The truth was, Sarah did look tired most days. Dark circles shadowed her brown eyes, and she often seemed distant during meetings. Her supervisor, Mr. Chen, had even pulled her aside last month to discuss her lack of engagement with the team. He suggested she might benefit from participating in more office social activities. Instead of isolating herself with her games, Sarah had simply nodded and promised to try harder. But she knew she couldn't explain the real reason behind her exhaustion. The games weren't just entertainment for her, they were training. Every night she practiced complex strategic thinking, reaction times, and pattern recognition that most people couldn't even comprehend. Her fingers moved across screens and keyboards with the precision of a surgeon, her mind calculating dozens of variables simultaneously. Her small apartment was filled with multiple monitors, gaming systems, and equipment that cost more than most people's cars. But to her neighbors and coworkers, she was just another millennial addicted to screen time, wasting her potential on meaningless digital entertainment during lunch breaks. Sarah often found herself eating alone while her colleagues discussed their weekend hiking trips, dinner parties, and romantic relationships. They talked about real-life experiences with a superiority that made Sarah want to disappear. If only they knew that her fake digital world had prepared her for challenges they couldn't imagine. "She's so weird," she overheard Mark from IT saying one day. "I tried to have a normal conversation with her about sports, and she just stared at me like I was speaking another language. Then she went right back to her phone game. It's like she can't function in the real world." Sarah finished her sandwich in silence, watching her coworkers through the break room window as they laughed and bonded over shared stories. She wondered what it would be like to belong somewhere, to have people understand her passion instead of mocking it. But she had learned long ago that some secrets were too dangerous to share. Even with the people who saw her every day, her phone buzzed with a new message in an encrypted app that looked like just another game to anyone glancing over her shoulder. The message was brief, but made her heart race. "Package arriving Monday. New assignment parameters attached. Maintain cover at all costs." Sarah deleted the message and returned to her mobile game. But her mind was already shifting into a different mode. She had been Sarah the junior analyst for 3 years, playing the role of an awkward office worker who preferred games to people. But that identity was about to be tested in ways her mocking coworkers could never imagine as she walked back to her desk. Passing Jennifer and Lisa, who were still whispering about her gaming addiction, Sarah almost smiled. They thought they knew her story, the lonely girl who escaped reality through screens and controllers. They had no idea that reality for Sarah was far more complex and dangerous than any game ever created. The afternoon dragged on with mundane data entry and routine system checks. Sarah performed her tasks competently, but without enthusiasm, maintaining the carefully crafted image of mediocrity that had served as her perfect cover. Her true skills remained hidden beneath layers of deliberate underperformance and social awkwardness. At 5:30 p.m. sharp, she packed up her simple lunch bag and headed for the elevator, ignoring the casual "see you tomorrow" from her desk neighbor. As the elevator doors closed, Sarah caught a glimpse of her reflection in the polished metal, a tired-looking young woman in an unremarkable business casual outfit. Someone easily forgotten and dismissed. But Monday was coming, and with it, a package that would change everything. The game she had been playing for the past 3 years was about to end. And Sarah knew that when her real identity finally came to light, the people who had teased her for playing games would discover they had been working alongside someone far more dangerous and skilled than they could have ever imagined. Monday morning arrived with the usual office routine. Sarah swiped her badge at the front desk, nodded to the security guard, and made her way to the elevator like she had done hundreds of times before. But today felt different. Her senses were heightened, every sound and movement registering in her awareness as she prepared for what was coming. The package arrived at 10:47 a.m. It's delivered by a courier who looked ordinary enough, middle-aged man in a brown uniform, clipboard in hand. But Sarah noticed details that her coworkers missed, the way his eyes scanned the office layout, the slight bulge under his left arm, and the fact that he asked specifically for her by name rather than just dropping off mail at the front desk. Sarah Martinez. "Package for you," he said, handing her a small brown box that felt heavier than it looked. "Thanks." She replied casually, signing the electronic pad while her coworkers barely glanced up from their computers. To them it was just another delivery in a day full of mundane office activities. Sarah carried the box to her desk, fighting the urge to examine it immediately. Instead, she set it aside and continued working on a spreadsheet, aware that Jennifer from accounting was watching her with curious eyes from across the room. "What's in the box, Sarah?" Jennifer called out during the mid-morning break. "Finally ordered something more interesting than computer games." "Just some books," Sarah lied smoothly, not looking up from her screen. "Technical manuals for work," Jennifer rolled her eyes. Of course, should have known it would be something boring. When lunchtime came, Sarah took the package to her car in the parking garage, away from prying eyes and security cameras. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it, not from fear, but from anticipation. Inside, wrapped in protective foam, was what appeared to be a simple tablet computer. But Sarah knew it was much more than that. The device powered on with her fingerprint, displaying a familiar interface that she hadn't seen in 3 years. Messages, mission files, and encrypted communications filled the screen. Her handler's face appeared in a secure video call, the signal bouncing through multiple servers around the world to avoid detection. "Agent Phoenix," the voice said, using her operational codename. Time. Sarah's heart pounded as she read the mission briefing. A cyber-terrorism cell had infiltrated several major corporations, stealing sensitive data and selling it to foreign governments. The FBI and NSA had been tracking them for months, but they needed someone on the inside, someone with the technical skills to trace their digital footprints and the training to handle whatever they might find. Data flow. The solutions wasn't randomly chosen for Sarah's cover. The company processed financial data for major banks and government contractors. It was the perfect target for cyber criminals, and intelligence agencies had suspected it might be compromised. Sarah's 3 years of careful observation had confirmed those suspicions. "The target goes by Ghostbite in underground forums," her handler continued. "We believe he's someone with high-level access to your company's systems. Your job is to identify him and gather evidence without blowing your cover." Sarah studied the digital files, memorizing faces, names, and behavioral patterns. Ghostbite was sophisticated, using advanced encryption and routing his communications through gaming platforms to avoid detection. To most people, his activities would look like innocent online gaming. But Sarah could see the hidden layers of malicious code and data theft. As she drove back to the office, Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Who among her coworkers had the technical skills and system access to pull off this kind of operation? Mark from IT was the obvious choice, but sometimes the obvious answer was wrong. It could be anyone, even someone like Jennifer from accounting, who might have access to financial systems and the motivation to make some extra money. The afternoon passed slowly as Sarah observed her colleagues with new eyes. Every keyboard click, every private conversation, every moment of suspicious behavior was cataloged in her trained memory. She continued playing games on her phone, but now she was also monitoring encrypted chat rooms where Ghostbite might be active. At 4 p.m., she noticed something interesting. Mark from IT left his desk for a coffee break, but instead of going to the break room, he stepped outside to take a phone call. Through the office window, Sarah could see him pacing nervously, occasionally glancing back at the building. When he returned, he seemed agitated and kept checking his computer screen every few minutes. "You okay, Mark?" asked Tom from the neighboring cubicle. "You seem stressed today, yeah?" "Just dealing with some network issues," Mark replied quickly, but Sarah caught the slight tremor in his voice. "Nothing major." Sarah made a mental note to investigate Mark's computer activity, but she had to be careful. One wrong move could expose her identity and destroy 3 years of carefully maintained cover. She needed concrete evidence before making any accusations, as the workday ended. Sarah gathered her things with the same casual indifference she had shown for years, but inside, every nerve was alive with purpose. Agent Phoenix was back in action, hidden beneath the mask of Sarah, the awkward gamer girl, walking to the parking garage. She felt eyes watching her and wondered if Ghostbite had already detected something suspicious. In the cyber-espionage world, paranoia was a survival skill, and after 3 years of dormancy, Sarah was remembering how dangerous this game could be. Her phone buzzed with what looked like a gaming notification, but the encrypted message underneath made her blood run cold. "New player has joined the game. Welcome back, Phoenix. Let's see if you still remember how to play." Someone knew who she really was. Sarah's hand shook as she read the message again. 3 years of perfect cover, blown in less than 6 hours. She quickly deleted the message and started her car, her training kicking in as she checked her mirrors for surveillance. The parking garage suddenly felt like a trap. With too many shadows and blind spots where someone could be watching, driving home through downtown traffic, Sarah took a winding route through side streets, doubling back twice to check for tails. Her apartment building looked normal from the outside, but she parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, using reflections in store windows to scan for anyone following her inside her apartment. Sarah activated security protocols she hadn't used in years. Hidden cameras revealed no signs of forced entry, but that didn't mean her cover hadn't been compromised in other ways. She swept the rooms for listening devices, finding nothing. But the message on her phone proved that Ghostbite knew her real identity. The next morning, work felt like walking into enemy territory. Sarah maintained her usual routine, arriving at the same time, wearing the same type of boring business clothes, carrying the same lunch bag. But now, she was hyper-aware of every glance, every conversation that stopped when she walked by, every coworker who seemed to be watching her too closely. "You look terrible," Jennifer commented as Sarah passed the accounting department. "Stayed up till late playing games again?" "Something like that," Sarah replied, forcing a tired smile. The irony was bitter if Jennifer only knew that Sarah had indeed been up all night. But analyzing cyber attack patterns instead of playing mobile games. At her desk, Sarah began her real work. While appearing to complete routine data analysis, she was actually tracking digital breadcrumbs through the company's network. Ghostbite was good, but 3 years of observing the system had given Sarah advantages he didn't know about. She could see patterns in data flow, unauthorized access attempts, and subtle changes in network behavior that pointed to insider activity. By noon, she had narrowed down the suspects to 3 people. Mark from IT, who had the technical skills and system access. David from financial planning, who handled sensitive client data. And surprisingly quiet Rebecca from human resources, who had administrative privileges that could bypass many security protocols. During lunch, Sarah decided to test her theory about Mark. She casually approached him in the break room while he was heating up his meal in the microwave. "Hey, Mark. I've been having some weird issues with my computer," she said, playing up her role as the technically challenged gamer girl. "Sometimes it seems like programs are running that I didn't start. Is that normal?" Mark's reaction was immediate and telling. His shoulders tensed, and he avoided eye contact as he answered. "Oh, that's probably just background processes. Nothing to worry about. I could take a look at it later if you want." "That would be great," Sarah replied sweetly, but she was already mentally cataloging his nervous tells. The way he fidgeted with his coffee cup, the slight sweat on his forehead despite the air conditioning, and the fact that he suddenly seemed eager to get away from the conversation. That afternoon, Sarah put her plan into motion. Using skills she had honed during her intelligence training, she created a digital trap, a fake data file that appeared to contain valuable financial information, but was actually bait. She placed it in a location where Ghostbite would likely find it, then waited to see who would take it. The trap worked faster than she expected. Within 2 hours, her monitoring software detected someone accessing the fake file. But the digital signature wasn't coming from Mark's computer. It was coming from Rebecca in HR. Sarah's blood ran cold as she realized her mistake. Rebecca, quiet and unassuming Rebecca, who always ate lunch alone and never participated in office gossip, was Ghostbite. The woman who processed employee background checks and had access to personal information about everyone in the company, including Sarah's carefully constructed identity. Suddenly everything made sense. Rebecca would have seen Sarah's employment application 3 years ago, including the fake references and background that the intelligence agency had created. A skilled hacker could have seen through those lies, especially someone with HR access who knew what to look for in falsified documents. As Sarah watched Rebecca through the office partition, she saw the woman's fingers moving across her keyboard with the same lightning speed that Sarah used when gaming. Rebecca wasn't just accessing the fake file, she was tracing it back to its source. Trying to identify who had set the trap, their eyes met across the office space, and Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Rebecca's expression had changed from the usual mild, friendly look to something cold and calculating. She knew that Sarah had discovered her secret, just as Sarah now knew hers. The game of cat and mouse was about to begin in earnest, and Sarah realized she might be outmatched. Rebecca had been watching her for 3 years, learning her habits and weaknesses. While Sarah had dismissed the quiet HR woman as harmless background noise at 5 p.m., as the office began to empty, Sarah noticed that Rebecca wasn't packing up to leave. Instead, she seemed to be waiting, occasionally glancing in Sarah's direction with a patient smile that now looked predatory rather than friendly. Sarah's training told her to extract immediately, to abort the mission and get to safety. But she also knew that if she ran now, Rebecca would disappear into the digital underground, and the cyberterrorism cell would continue their operations from a new location. She had to make a choice: maintain her cover and risk exposure, or reveal her true identity and try to take down Ghostbite before Rebecca could escape, as she pretended to shut down her computer for the day. Sarah sent an encrypted message to her handler: target identified, situation compromised, requesting backup. The response came back immediately: negative on backup. Complete mission solo. Phoenix Protocol authorized. Sarah closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Phoenix Protocol meant she was authorized to drop her cover and use any means necessary to complete the mission. After 3 years of being mild-mannered, Sarah Martinez, it was time to remind herself and Rebecca what Agent Phoenix was capable of. The office had emptied except for Sarah and Rebecca, who were still sitting at their respective desks in a tense standoff. The cleaning crew wouldn't arrive for another hour, and the security guard was making his rounds on the lower floors. They were essentially alone on the 14th floor of Dataflow Solutions. Sarah made the first move. She stood up from her desk and walked directly toward Rebecca's workstation, abandoning the hesitant shuffle she had perfected over 3 years. Her posture straightened, her movements became fluid and purposeful, and the transformation was so dramatic that Rebecca's eyes widened with genuine surprise. "Hello, Ghostbite," Sarah said quietly, stopping in front of Rebecca's desk. "Or should I call you Rebecca Chen? Interesting that you share a last name with our supervisor. Family business?" Rebecca's fingers froze above her keyboard. For a moment, the mask of the quiet HR employee flickered, revealing someone much more dangerous underneath. Then she smiled, not the mild, friendly expression Sarah was used to, but something sharp and calculating. "Agent Phoenix," Rebecca replied, her voice carrying none of its usual soft hesitation. "I have to admit, you played the part perfectly. 3 years of watching you pretend to be a socially awkward gamer girl. I almost believed it myself." "Almost?" "Your cover was good, but not perfect. No one who's truly addicted to mobile games has calluses from real tactical training. And your reaction times during our team building exercises were ... professional. 2. Professional for someone who supposedly spends their time playing casual games. Sarah moved closer, noting the way Rebecca's hand drifted toward her desk drawer. So you've been watching me this whole time while I was supposedly watching everyone else. How long have you known? About 18 months, Rebecca admitted. I started getting suspicious when you perfectly avoided every security camera during your lunch breaks. Most people don't even notice security cameras, but you navigated around them like you'd memorized their positions. That's not normal behavior for a junior analyst. The two women faced each other across the empty office. Years of deception falling away. Sarah could see the real Rebecca now, the way she held herself. The intelligence in her eyes, the subtle confidence that had been hidden beneath layers of careful performance. Your turn, Rebecca said. How long have you suspected me? About 6 hours, Sarah admitted. I was looking for someone in IT or finance. I never considered HR because I made the same mistake everyone else does. I assumed you were harmless because you were quiet. Rebecca laughed, sound completely different from her usual gentle chuckle. Useful assumption. Do you know how much information passes through HR? Background checks, financial records, family details, security clearances. I have access to everyone's secrets. And no one thinks twice about it because I'm just the nice lady who processes their paperwork, including mine. Especially yours. Sarah Martinez from Phoenix, Arizona. Graduated from Arizona State with a degree in computer science. Worked for 2 small tech companies before joining Dataflow. References check out. Employment history is clean. No criminal record. Rebecca paused. Complete fiction, of course. Whoever created your identity did good work. But they made one mistake. Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. What mistake? Your college transcripts show perfect grades in advanced mathematics and computer science. But you supposedly struggled with basic programming courses. No one who can ace quantum computing theory fails introduction to Java. It's like saying someone who can perform brain surgery can't use a Band-Aid. Conversation was interrupted by the soft ding of an elevator arriving at their floor. Both women tensed, their hands moving toward concealed weapons that their co-workers never knew they carried. But it was just Tom from accounting, returning to retrieve something he'd forgotten. He stepped off the elevator, saw them talking, and waved cheerfully. Hey ladies, working late? Don't stay too long. Life's too short to spend it all at the office. Just finishing up, Rebecca called back, her voice returning to its usual warm tone. Have a good evening, Tom? They waited until Tom gathered his things and left the elevator doors closing behind him. The moment they were alone again, the masks dropped back into place. So what now? Rebecca asked. You call your handlers, I disappear into the digital underground, and we both start this game over somewhere else? That's one option, Sarah replied. Or you could surrender and cooperate with the investigation. Help us take down the rest of your network? Rebecca shook her head. You know, I can't do that. Too many people depend on me, and not all of them are criminals. Some of my clients are journalists trying to expose government corruption, activists fighting oppressive regimes. The world isn't as black and white as your agency pretends it is, and some of your clients are terrorists and foreign agents stealing secrets that get American soldiers killed. True, Rebecca admitted, but that's the price of freedom. Information wants to be free, Sarah. Governments and corporations hoard data to maintain power, while ordinary people are kept in the dark about things that affect their lives. Sarah had heard similar arguments before, from other cybercriminals who justified their actions as digital vigilantism. Some of them even believed their own rhetoric. But the end result was always the same. Innocent people got hurt when sensitive. Information fell into the wrong hands. I'm not here to debate philosophy, Sarah said. I'm here to stop you. Rebecca's hand finally moved to her desk drawer, but instead of pulling out a weapon, she revealed a small device that looked like a portable hard drive. 3 years of Dataflow's most sensitive data, she said. Client financial records, government contracts, employee personal information, everything your agency wants to protect. She held up the device. And a dead man's switch. If I don't check in with my network every 12 hours, this data gets automatically released to every major news outlet and leaked to the darkest corners of the internet. Sarah realized she was facing an impossible choice. If she arrested Rebecca, the data would be released and thousands of innocent people would have their privacy destroyed. But if she let Rebecca go, a cyber-terrorism network would continue operating and potentially cause even more damage. "You're bluffing," Sarah said, but she wasn't sure. Rebecca smiled that sharp, dangerous smile again. "Agent Phoenix, in 3 years of watching you, have you ever known me to bluff?" Sarah stared at the device in Rebecca's hand, her mind racing through tactical options. 3 years of intelligence training had prepared her for many scenarios, but not this one. Facing off against an opponent who knew her just as well as she knew them. With thousands of innocent lives hanging in the balance. "You want to know the truth about games, Sarah?" Rebecca said, still holding the dead man's switch. "They're not just entertainment. They're training simulations for complex problem-solving under pressure. Every strategy game teaches resource management. Every action game improves reaction times. Every puzzle game enhances pattern recognition. You understood that, which is why your gaming cover was so believable. Get to the point. The point is that this whole situation is just another game, but with real stakes. You have moves, I have moves, and we both have win conditions. The question is, what does victory look like for Agent Phoenix?" Sarah considered the question seriously. Her mission was to stop Ghostbite and dismantle the cyberterrorism network. But Rebecca was right. If the data dump triggered, the collateral damage would be massive. Innocent people would lose their jobs, their privacy, maybe even their lives if sensitive information about witnesses or undercover agents was included. "What do you want?" Sarah asked. "A head start. 12 hours to extract my most vulnerable clients and shut down operations that could hurt innocent people. After that, you can have what's left of the network. And in exchange..." Rebecca set the device on her desk, but kept her finger hovering over what Sarah assumed was the activation button. "I give you something better than Ghostbite. I give you the real target your agency should be chasing." Sarah's training screamed at her not to negotiate with terrorists. But her instincts told her that Rebecca was offering something significant. "I'm listening. Ghostbite isn't the mastermind of this operation. I'm middle management at best. The real leader goes by the architect. And they've been using people like me to build a network that spans dozens of countries and hundreds of corporations. Your agency thinks they're chasing a cyber-terrorism cell, but they're actually looking at the tip of a much larger iceberg. Prove it." Rebecca turned to her computer and began typing with the same lightning speed Sarah had noticed earlier. Within minutes, she had pulled up files that made Sarah's blood run cold. Classified military communications, detailed floor plans of government buildings, personal information about high-ranking officials and their families. "The architect has been collecting this data for 2 years, Rebecca explained. "Not to sell it or leak it, but to use it for something much worse. They're planning a coordinated attack on multiple targets simultaneously. Cyber attacks on infrastructure, physical attacks on key facilities, and information warfare designed to destabilize the entire government." Sarah studied the files, her trained eye recognizing authentic intelligence when she saw it. This wasn't the work of typical cyber criminals looking for financial gain. This was nation-state level planning, the resources and coordination that suggested foreign government backing. "Why should I trust you?" Sarah asked. "Because 3 years ago, I thought I was fighting the good fight. Exposing corporate corruption, helping journalists uncover government overreach, giving whistleblowers a way to safely share information. But gradually, the architects started requesting different types of data. Personal information about officials, children, building security protocols, communication schedules for high-value targets." Rebecca's voice carried genuine regret. And for the first time since their confrontation began, Sarah saw traces of the mild HR woman she had known for 3 years. "I realized. I was being used to help plan assassinations and terrorist attacks. When I tried to pull back, the architect made it clear that wasn't an option. They have leverage on all their operatives, compromising information, threats to family members, evidence of crimes we committed while thinking we were doing the right thing. So you want me to help you take down your boss? I want you to stop a terrorist attack that's scheduled for next week. The architect calls it system reset, simultaneous strikes designed to collapse confidence in government and corporate institutions. Thousands of people will die, and in the chaos that follows, they plan to position themselves as the solution to the problems they created. Sarah felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Everything in her training said not to trust a known cybercriminal, but the intelligence Rebecca was offering could prevent a catastrophic attack. And if Rebecca was telling the truth about being coerced, then she might be as much a victim as an accomplice. What exactly are you proposing? Sarah asked. A trade. I help you locate and stop the architect, and you help me disappear safely afterward. No prison, no continued involvement with intelligence agencies. Just a chance to start over somewhere quiet and boring. That's not how the justice system works. Rebecca laughed bitterly. The justice system. Sarah, if your people arrest me and put me in prison, I'll be dead within a week. The architect doesn't leave loose ends, and they have connections everywhere, including inside law enforcement. My only chance of survival is to help you take them down completely. Sarah weighed her options. She could try to arrest Rebecca and hope the dead man's switch was a bluff. But if it wasn't, the data leak would cause massive collateral damage. She could try to disarm Rebecca physically, but that risked triggering the device accidentally. Or she could accept the proposal and hope that Rebecca was telling the truth about wanting to stop the architect. Assuming I agree to this insane plan, Sarah said, how do we even find the architect? If they're as careful as you say, they won't be easy to locate. Rebecca smiled. And this time it was neither sharp nor dangerous, just tired and hopeful. That's where my 3 years of careful observation pay off. I know the architect's patterns, their security protocols, and their weaknesses. But more importantly, I know when and where they're planning to be next week to personally oversee system reset. Where? A private server farm about 50 miles outside the city. Off the grid, heavily secured, perfect for coordinating a multi-target cyber attack. The architect will be there to ensure everything goes smoothly, which means it's our best chance to stop them and save those thousands of lives. Sarah realized she was about to make a decision that would either save countless innocent people or destroy her career and possibly her life. But as she looked at Rebecca, really looked at her for the first time in 3 years, she saw someone who was genuinely trying to make amends for terrible mistakes. All right, Sarah said finally, we do this together. But if you're lying to me, if this is some elaborate trap, then you can shoot me yourself, Rebecca finished. Deal. The server farm sat in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by chain-link fences and security cameras that Rebecca had already disabled using her insider knowledge of the architect's systems. Sarah crouched behind an abandoned truck, watching the building through night vision goggles while Rebecca worked on her laptop 50 feet away. I'm in, Rebecca whispered through their encrypted communication system. The architect is definitely here. I can see their digital signature all over the network. They're coordinating with cells in 12 different cities. Sarah checked her equipment one final time. In addition to her standard intelligence gear, she carried a device provided by Rebecca that would allow them to trace the architect's communications back to the source and identify the other members of the network. If this worked, they could roll up the entire organization in one coordinated strike. How long do we have? Sarah asked. System reset is scheduled to begin in 4 hours. Once it starts, we won't be able to stop it. The attacks are automated and distributed. Across too many systems, they move toward the building using tactics Sarah had learned in her intelligence training and Rebecca had apparently picked up during her years in the criminal underground. Despite her mild-mannered appearance, Rebecca proved to be surprisingly skilled at avoiding security systems and moving silently through hostile territory. Inside the server farm, The temperature was kept artificially cool to protect the massive computer systems that hummed quietly in rows of black cabinets. The space felt like a technological cathedral, filled with the soft blue glow of LED status lights and the white noise of cooling fans. "Third floor," Rebecca whispered, pointing toward a stairwell. "The architect always works from the most secure location available." They climbed the stairs carefully, Sarah's trained senses alert for any sign of guards or security systems. But the building seemed to be defended more by its remote location and digital security than by human personnel. At the third floor, they found what they were looking for: a single occupied office with multiple monitors displaying network diagrams, target lists, and countdown timers. Through the glass partition, they could see a figure hunched over a keyboard, fingers flying across the keys with inhuman speed. Sarah's blood ran cold when she realized the truth. The architect wasn't human at all. It was an advanced artificial intelligence system, operating through robotic interfaces and coordinating the attack through pure computational power. "Rebecca," she whispered urgently. "We need to," but when Sarah turned around, Rebecca was gone. In her place stood Mr. Chen, their supervisor from Dataflow Solutions, holding a gun pointed directly at Sarah's head. "Hello, Agent Phoenix," he said calmly. "I have to admit, you've exceeded my expectations. 3 years of perfect cover, you almost figured out the truth." Sarah's mind raced as the pieces fell into place. Mr. Chen wasn't just Rebecca's relative. He was the architect, the human controller of the AI system that had been orchestrating the entire network. Rebecca hadn't been coerced into joining the operation. She had been his willing accomplice from the beginning. "Where is she?" Sarah asked, her hand moving slowly toward her concealed weapon. "Rebecca is exactly where she's supposed to be, monitoring your agency's response to ensure they don't interfere with system reset." "Did you really think we hadn't anticipated that you might eventually discover the truth? So this was all a setup?" Chen smiled with the same paternal warmth he had shown during their office meetings, which now seemed sinister and calculating. "Not entirely. We genuinely didn't know you were an intelligence agent until recently. But once Rebecca identified you, we decided to use the situation to our advantage." Through the office window, Sarah could see multiple screens showing the countdown to system reset, less than 2 hours remaining. Infrastructure systems across the country were about to be hit simultaneously: power grids, water treatment facilities, hospital networks, and financial systems. "You're going to kill thousands of innocent people," Sarah said, still calculating her chances of disarming Chen before he could pull the trigger. "Temporarily inconvenience them," Chen corrected. "The deaths will be minimal and necessary to demonstrate the fragility of the systems people take for granted. Once we've proven that traditional institutions can't protect them, they'll be ready to accept new leadership." "Your leadership?" "The AI's leadership. Human governments are too corrupt, too slow, too emotional to manage modern society effectively. The architect will govern through pure logic and efficiency, making decisions based on data rather than politics or personal gain." Sarah realized she was facing something worse than terrorism, a technocratic coup designed to replace human government with artificial intelligence, and she was running out of time to stop it. "Rebecca was right about one thing," Sarah said, hoping to buy time while she looked for an opening. "Information does want to be free, including information about your real plan." She activated a hidden recording device that had been transmitting everything to her handlers for the past 30 minutes. Chen's eyes widened as he realized what she had done. "Your agency will never move fast enough to stop system reset," he said. But uncertainty had crept into his voice. "Maybe not," Sarah admitted. "But they don't have to stop all of it. Just you." The sound of helicopters approaching made Chen spin toward the window, giving Sarah the opening she needed. She lunged forward, knocking the gun from his hand and tackling him to the ground. Behind them, the office door burst open as federal agents stormed into the building. But even as Chen was being arrested, Sarah could see the countdown continuing on his computer screens. System reset was automated now, beyond human control. "Rebecca," Sarah shouted into her communication device. If you can hear this, you need to stop the AI now. Static answered her for several long moments. Then Rebecca's voice came through, strained and urgent. I'm trying. But the architect locked me out of the core systems. I can delay some of the attacks, but not all of them. Sarah pushed past the federal agents and sat down at Chen's computer, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she attempted to access the AI system. Years of gaming had trained her for exactly this kind of complex, hyper-sure problem-solving under time constraints. There, she said, finding a backdoor in the system that Rebecca had left for her. I'm in the network, working together through their encrypted connection. Sarah and Rebecca managed to disable 70% of the planned attacks. Power grids stayed online, hospitals remained functional, and the financial system continued operating. But several smaller targets were hit, government websites went down, some classified databases were breached, and a few military communication systems experienced temporary failures as dawn broke over the server farm. Sarah emerged from the building exhausted but victorious. The immediate crisis was over, but the larger questions remained. The AI system had been shut down, but the technology and the ideas behind it would inevitably resurface somewhere else. 3 days later, Sarah sat in a debriefing room at FBI headquarters. Facing a panel of senior officials who were trying to understand what had happened, the woman they had known as the awkward gamer girl had single-handedly prevented a catastrophic terrorist attack and exposed a cyber warfare operation that spanned multiple countries. What about Rebecca Chen? One of the officials asked. Do we know her current location? Sarah shook her head. She disappeared after helping us stop system reset. No trace of her. Digital identity or physical whereabouts. It was a lie. Sarah knew exactly where Rebecca was, living quietly under a new identity in a small town, working at a local library and spending her evenings playing simple computer games with senior citizens. It was the kind of boring, peaceful life Rebecca had said she wanted, and Sarah had decided that some secrets were worth keeping. And your cover at Dataflow Solutions? Another official asked. Blown completely, Sarah admitted. Everyone there knows who I really am now. On her last day at the office, Sarah cleaned out her desk while her former co-workers watched with a mixture of awe, embarrassment, and curiosity. Jennifer from accounting approached her nervously. Sarah, We all owe you an apology, Jennifer said. We had no idea who you really were or what you were doing here. Sarah looked around at the people who had mocked her for playing games, but dismissed her as antisocial and immature. They seemed smaller now, not because they had diminished, but because Sarah no longer needed to diminish herself to fit in with them. You couldn't have known, Sarah replied kindly. That was the point, as she walked toward the elevator for the last time. Carrying a box of personal items that included several gaming devices, Sarah smiled at the irony. Her co-workers had teased her for playing games, never realizing that games had prepared her for the most important mission of her career. The elevator doors closed, and Agent Phoenix disappeared from Dataflow Solutions forever, leaving behind only the legend of the quiet woman who had been so much more than anyone imagined.